Lizbeth again at Persistence You with Lizbeth podcast. Find me at LaMeredith.com and hop on my email list. This week I was my own guest. Normally I have guests on my podcast talking about surviving, striving, trying to embrace community as they, go through life. And instead I talked about my own story of moving from Anchorage, Alaska, over 50 years in the same place, living in a community that raised me essentially, and then moving by myself, well, actually with my cats, to Chattanooga. And I don't know, I never can stomach listening to my own interviews, so hopefully that went well. But I think I forgot to say one important thing in the podcast interview, because moving is hard, but it's really hard when you're like 57 and you don't have little kids at home, or you don't have a full-time job that you're moving to. You don't have any friends or family in this particular community. It's hard to make connections. And so I spoke in the podcast about things I eventually learned to do, that I forced myself to do, because I came from the great north, came to the deep south, and it was a shock to the system. The weather, the culture, even the language, everything is wonderful. I love Chattanooga, but it's a different world. And I didn't know anybody to kind of interpret that with right here in my city. And it was a great adventure. But I learned some things along the way that helped me make those connections that make everything possible, really. I mean, so important for us, even if we feel like we're introverts. We are all pack animals. We need community. So I talked about that in the podcast. One thing I forgot to do was attach my video, because it was sort of symbolic. I thought I wanted to learn to paddleboard. That was one of my bucket list things when I moved to the South, was to learn to paddleboard, because I have balance issues and that's supposed to really be helpful. So I've been taking lessons as I can afford them. And I felt really confident the last time I went, right before the podcast came out, and I was going to be so proud. So I had a new camera thingy that keeps your camera dry, one of those fancy little wrappers for $15 that you get, so it'll be dry. You don't have to take it out to take photos. And brought my keys, dressed appropriately, because I'm getting better at it. I think all of us, if we give ourselves permission to try something, if we keep doing it, we do get better. So I finally felt confident on the paddleboard, and I was taking a video to put in show notes for the for the podcast. But it turns out, shouldn't be confident too early, because life still happens. So just as I was making this video, and I will post it probably in the link or in the show notes of the podcast, I took a header and went face down into the water. My car keys, my phone, we all go down together, and it's dark. I mean, I was out there late and I was too tired to get back on the paddleboard. It had been a long week. It was really hot. And so I just held on to it for like 20 minutes before I could even think about trying to struggle to get back on. So, oh well, this is an imperfect life we're living, but I'm trying, and I hope you are too. It was fun. I have loved this adventure. I've been here 10 months now, and I do have a community and kind of developing a life I'm loving. Still getting used to things, but so grateful to have an opportunity to try something new, and still love and miss Alaska, but this was the time to try, while I still have my teeth and my original hips for the moment. Have a great week. See you next time.